Boot. Okay, so it's working. All right, folks. My name is Randy Keith, and everybody just go ahead in any particular order and introduce yourselves.
My name is Laura Berry. I'm very happy to be here and to actually connect with real living people. And you too, Randy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Hank Showers from the Mississippi Gulf Coast, where I'm kind of talking to you now. We just got off a long road trip from Christmas, and it's, I'm glad I was able to catch this call. Very grateful for it. Looking forward to listening to what everyone has to say tonight.
Great.
Thank you for letting me be here.
Thanks for being here.
My name is Zach Lozay. I'm in Vermont. Hello.
Thanks. Thank
I'm
you, Zach.
Pamela Phillips from Boise, Idaho.
My name's Jennifer Lopez, and as Randy mentioned, it's my first time attending. And I am in Illinois in the United States. I'm in the western suburbs just outside of Chicago.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Daphne.
Daphne. I'm Daphne, also AKA Daphne B. And I'm in Virginia, Northern Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C. And thankful to be here with all of you and look forward to this discussion.
Cool. Thanks, Daphne. Thank you for being here. David was going to try to be here, but it just didn't work into his schedule. So Daphne and David are a couple friends of mine, and we've spent some time together. Anyhow, so DNA. Well, I guess we could first start off with what does it stand for? And then we can go into the energetic composition of it. But prior to that, we'll take a look at the 6 elements that makes up this creational field. Okay, because it'll be relevant to the discussion of DNA. So can anybody give me the 3 names that's related to the acronym DNA, or the 3 letters DNA?
Deoxyribonucleic acid?
Yes, yes. So we're going to take a look at a little bit at the chemistry for that, but yeah, to break it down, you know, deoxy is in reference to one of the molecules, which is a pairing molecule that makes up the genes for the helix, and it doesn't have an oxygen molecule, so that's what that's referenced to. Deoxyribonucleic acid, which is the sugar phosphate backbone for the helix, which transfers the amino acids to the DNA. So three words, right? Anyhow, that's on a chemical level. We'll take a look at that if you guys are interested in that further. But first, let's begin with I have to pull this up because I want to try to stay on track. I put this together by memory yesterday. So what I did was I got on my phone and I emailed me voice text. And then I transcribed this later. So this is where this comes from. All right. Okay, see if I can get a chat. Where's the chat? There it is. All right. Now, is anybody familiar with the 6 elements that makes, according to the Keylontic science model, what that is? The 6 elements?
Is it different from earth, water, fire, air, ether, and space?
Um,
That was
no, not really. Yes and no, I'll put it that way. I'll go ahead and put it in the chat so anybody wants to read this. I guess it's going to be important for everybody to be able to read it because we're going to take turns kind of reading things, if you don't mind. That way we can engage a little bit more with this. So I'll go ahead and put that in the chat and you can go ahead and anybody can read it. Of course I can, but I prefer not to. Rather have somebody, whoever wants to, that's fine.
okay. I'm sorry. I was.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, it's all good. Okay, we're taking our time, and there's this is a process, and you know, so.
I'll read it.
Okay, all right, Hank. Thanks.
All right, let me pull up the chat real quick. So the 6 elements of creation are the particle, the particle strands, chelons, chelon codes, the morphogenic field, and the light symbol codes.
Okay, so any of you outside of perhaps Hank, because he pronounced all that correctly, are familiar with this? Okay, Laura?
A little bit.
Pam? A little bit? How about
Yes,
you, Zach?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Jennifer?
For hearing, can you repeat the question?
Well, can you go into the chat? Is that possible?
Oh. It is actually not pulling up for me, and I'm at understanding why it just says messaging unavailable. So I couldn't
Oh.
retrieve the share.
Well, that's too bad. I'll go ahead and read it for you if that's okay. The 6 elements of creation according to the Keylontic science model. Number 1, the particle, in this order, okay? The particle strands, chelons, chelon codes, the morphogenic field, and light symbol codes. Okay. What you'll notice, sure, go ahead, Laura.
Is the particle related to particle, and particum? Is that's
Yeah,
how I
it's a triune expression, and the particum and particle is part of that triunity. Yeah. It's actually the way that I'm looking to present it here is what I've already done many times on YouTube. For those who may have seen the video, the Heloic breath current, where I'm taking basically the particle and showing you what a Keylon grid is within a 2-dimensional image, which is just a positive and negative pole. Again, the emphasis really here is, as far as learning anything, is about your intention so that you're clear about it. So the simplest that we can make it, the better off that it can be utilized within practical practice, you know. So when you're doing a technique, you understand what this is on the most fundamental level, and it works perfectly fine. Actually, it works better that way because your intention is really clear. And it's really about your intention, because if your intention is at 100%, which is quite huge, but if it's at 100%, manifestation happens like that. And it takes a while to get to that, you know, but the simpler that you can make things allows for that intention to become greater. So if you haven't seen that video, when I upload this, I'll go ahead and link it during this section so you can have a look at that. But we're going to cover some of that at this point, if you don't mind. I'm looking for permission. So I don't want to do anything nobody else wants to do. Okay. So.
No, let's do that. Great.
So, at any rate, yeah, you're looking at a triunity expression, but it's It's a code, and the code is through energetic movement. When you look at, as an example, if you look at a two-dimensional image that we recognize as being a Merkaba, right? Here within 3D. What does it look like? I mean, what does it look like to anyone?
A six-pointed star.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Two triangles,
Mm-hmm.
one upside down and one right side up.
Yep. Anybody else? There's no right or wrong answer here. Okay.
And spinning in reverse directions, opposite directions.
Right. So when we're looking at the particle and we're looking at this movement, because that's what's occurring within it, you have two counter-rotating fields. Although they're inside one another, they're not separate from one another. Neither is anything like here. When we look at the vibration within magnetism, right, which is pre-sound, and then we see oscillation, which is frequency, okay? Are they separate? No, they're part of the same thing. It's just a different expression within the code. And it's part of the construct's design overall, and that in itself, we can go into more depth about this, but that in itself, you'll see in everything else. And this is what I call this rabbit hole, so to speak, is what is the encryption of the particle from which you see everything. If you understand that, everything else is really easy, because all in its magnificence in regard to the math that you see and the geometry that you see, realize it's coming from the particle because everything is made up of particle, and that is the code. And the code is a consciousness code, so it's a living code. When I did the video about the heloic breath current and showed this two-dimensional image of a line and having a negative and positive pole on each end, and in the center, it also had, I put a dot there in the center, and I called that the master command code center. The reason why is because this is a consciousness construct. So facilitating within a collective is the reason why when someone goes out of the body and then things manifest quickly, right then and there, you're speaking something, it's a command. And what happens when you speak that command? Why do you find yourself, okay, here's an analogy that I've heard and I've used it a couple times, and I think it's relevant. You go out of the body. Here's the example. If you go out of the body, right, and say it was a near-death experience, and so there's a bit of confusion because, you know, there's amnesia here. So you don't know quite where you're at or what's going on. Then you realize what it is, kinda, and you go, aren't I supposed to see a tunnel? Now, that command is going to go to a default within you in regard to what tunnel is. And the default probably in this case would be any tunnel. And next thing you know, you find yourself in a tunnel in the earth somewhere, dirty and smelly. Now, you weren't being specific. See, this is where intention comes into play quite a bit. All right. But it's, how did you get there? That's the question. You spoke it, not verbally, but within you, energetically, and that's the way it really works. Anything, anywhere. We just are just like in molasses here. Everything's really slowed down, and so we have this, you know, way that we communicate here, which is completely inefficient, but it can be fun. Anyhow, point being, obviously, is that within the command of the ether, which is the particle, it's responding to you. What is it doing? It's serving you because it's for the benefit of all life. So through your intended energetic expression, shouldn't there be a tunnel? You get exactly what's going on, and it has to do with who you are. So it'll go to a default. What's in you, right? So when you look at that video and you see that command center, knowing that this is consciousness, living beings that are facilitating for your benefit. And that's the way the construct's designed. And the simpler the way in which we can understand how things work, and going back to the movement, again, emphasizing that video because it really does go into the idea of the movement, and knowing that the particle strands, Kelon codes, the morphogenic field, the light symbol codes are all the same thing. They're just a different aspect of the construct design. Sort of like having a Lego, and then you build something with Legos. Lego by itself adds to what you're building. But after you built it, you realize, wow, that's all made out of Legos. Exactly. And in this case, we're talking about a consciousness construct. Everything is facilitated, through conscious intention. So I don't know if that helped any. Just give me a second. I'm going to turn on the light. Looks like I'm in the shadows. Anyhow, so now I'm orange. So does that make sense to anybody? Okay. So what I'm going to do here, for those who can read, and Jennifer, I'm sorry that you weren't able to participate in this, but maybe next time we can do that. We'll figure something out. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and put something else in the chat. And this is going to pertain to the particle, okay? And that way we can get a better understanding of this, perhaps. Now, who wants to volunteer to read this? No volunteers? Oh, Hank.
I'll read it again. All right.
I'll read it. Okay.
Okay, you go ahead.
Okay. The particle holds the first creation vibration, thought, intention, or the complete universal multidimensional source code. This original intention, also referred to as the point of all union, within the particle is a conscious energetic circulatory system, which we can see as being an electromagnetic field. This circulation of energy forms that which is called the Kelon grid.
This is the circulation I'm talking about in regard to the video of the heroic breath current, which shows that Kelon grid and how it forms that which we see as being the Merkaba shape within its movement, how it moves, where one is moving like this and the other one's moving like that. Yeah. So
what's the name of that video again, please?
What I'll do, because everybody here is in Patreon, I'll go ahead and just upload it in Patreon.
Okay.
Okay. That way it'll be there. It needed to be there anyhow. So, but I think it's a good idea to have it there. So, is there anything here that was just read by Laura that anybody has any questions or wants to add to?
So the particle is basically, it's like, it's the initial everything that creates everything. It's just like the spark.
It's the code. It's not source itself, but that starts going down a slippery slope because there's nothing that is not occupying some space of awareness. Even that which is, you can say, unconscious or inactive conscious in so-called inanimate aspects, like within space-time, because of things that have taken place within the conflict of wills, you could say.
Right.
But there's nothing that's not used and can't be animated.
So as a code, is it a geometry?
Well, it certainly is a geometry.
Right.
But for our benefit, I think what is most important is seeing how it can be practically applied. And so when it comes to techniques, the ones that I've been kind of focusing on, the emphasis for me is like, okay, why do all this other stuff when this stuff doesn't bring what it needs to bring yet? People are looking to graduate. My experiences, I've had a lot of people come to me and they're looking to graduate from one thing to another. And it's like, this is, I said, you know where you're at, right? Welcome to Earth. This is going to take a while. So you're not graduating. You'll know when you need to move on, because it'll just, there's transmutation. The idea of transmutation on a conscious level just leads you where you need to go next. And it's very subtle and it's very slow, but it certainly does happen. I've had things mainly when I'm working with tones in my own interpretation of things. Just as a footnote, it's important for me to say this because it'll apply to people individually here. Because of my background and the way I am, I always looking for that which was new within the creation and to be a facilitator of that. So when I was first exposed to Keylontic science in regard to the singing of tones, I didn't listen to any of it. I just took it and I recreated it according to my imprint, my intention. And I think that is really, really, really important. I not necessarily do it what I'm doing, because my path is resulted in doing such things. And I've been doing that for a very long time. So that's nothing new. But the point is that I'm saying is that your uniqueness, how you approach something, how you perceive it, how you connect with it, it has to be a personal thing. That's very, very, very important, because we're going back to the idea of intention. So with what I had been doing, and I'm not thinking about much of anything or say looking for results or any of that, okay, in context. I started to remember a lot of things. I start to relive it, and then just like a spectator, just see it and just know it within, a nanosecond, all that which took place. One example, me falling out of the crib at 6 months old. I relived the whole thing, seen the whole thing. I knew exactly what happened. It was always kept a secret from me because of the people, parent involved didn't want to take blame because it was too overwhelming. Welcome to Earth. But that happened unexpectedly. I wasn't thinking about any of that. I just sitting on the couch, and I got up and I walked. As soon as I walked into the kitchen, boom, right. I'd seen it all. I'd seen my brother, seen what clothes he was wearing, and everything knew what was going on. And when I fell out, I left the body. No pain, just was out of it. I experienced all that. And one of the things, I don't want to digress too much here, but one of the things that I noticed in certain aspects of recovery that was very lucid like that is that I'm always the same. Perfect. You all are. Who you really are, you're always the same. You're experiencing self differently, and it's the experience that you're seeking. Really, it's not going to change who you're, because prior to this, in regard to who you are outside of the manifest construct, you know everything. I mean, on that level, you're all knowing. And like I said, I don't want to digress too much, and I don't want to raise too many questions either. So, but point is that that's important to know. You're in a process of not learning, but recovery. You're just recovering what you already knew. And so it's important for you to process it the way that's most relevant to you. It's all a process. So, anyhow, Does anybody else have anything? Did I answer it? Did I answer your question, or did I kind of answer the question, or no?
Mhm.
I did? Okay, great. I
I have
wasn't
a
quite sure.
question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
You had something you had said earlier about if you were at if your intention was at 100%,
Yes.
and we're trying to grow and remember, how do you have a video discussing like how you would gauge that, or on a daily
Yeah,
basis? Like how do you
yeah,
keep
that's
track of
so
that?
interesting. Thank you so much for bringing that up, because that's so important. You don't gauge it. You don't look for the result. When you do that, you have an expectation. This is what I learned for myself. It's always in the process of letting go and just allowing, and have no expectation of it. Just find yourself in the moment of whatever you're doing, and allow as much as possible to make room for joy and love to work through you, which is your true nature. And when that is taking place, things start to just happen. And it's not really a matter of gauging. It's really you just find yourself, I don't do this anymore. I'm doing this. So you're like, let me rephrase that. For myself, it's like being beside myself, just observing what's going on, you know? And I recognize things through that observation of what's there and what's good. It's really kind of funny, you know, but which is I find my aspect of self to be over here, and and I've always felt it over here. And when I start looking into chelotic science and the mentor, you know, that technique process, I was already there. I had been there for always sensed it. And when I was speaking, this is as an example. Okay, so uh, a lot of your feelings are very important to be in touch with what's going on with that, the feeling the energy, okay, and yourself. And I was doing a session with an individual, and they were helping me out, and they were doing a reading on me, and I trusted this person. That's not something you should give to anybody, but we became very close friends, and he had been doing what he's been doing for like 35, 40 years, you know, going out of the body and so on and forth, and working with other beings outside the body, bringing information to them because they don't know what's going on here, even though you can peer into it. Boots on the ground means everything in that regard. But he was able, he could see me here. And he says, I can see you where you're at. And I go, here, right? And he said, yeah. So be aware of what's going on energetically, if anything, as far as yourself. It's about yourself. It's all about yourself. We can't truly help others until we expand. So in the process of our expansion, it's something that you're just within the moment all the time, you know? In other words, your awareness of what's going on is that. So, you know, being present in the moment, living through your heart, through your intention, the expression of joy and love, wherever it goes, wherever it's directed, first to yourself. That's important. I had to learn that the hard way. I would give myself away to everything and everybody, you know, and not give time to myself. And, you know, and I was, in a lot of cases, I was brutal to myself, you know. You know, me speaking about right now, I feel this sense of healing coming forth, almost wanting to cry because of how much time I spent beating on myself. And I spent 27 years in Christianity. Okay. I had some beautiful experiences, but also had some hellish ones too. I was in ministry and dealing with demonic, you know, situations and spiritual warfare for about, I don't know, 15 years, not straight, but so there's been a whole lot of deprogramming going on with me, you know. So um, it's important to be kind to yourself and don't expect anything. Just be in the moment, being present, you know. So
I have a
Cool.
question.
Thank you.
most welcome. Thank you for the question.
Okay, I have, first of all, I'd like to say my friend Deanna just hopped on. We've been doing different codes regularly for quite a long time. And I have a question to you, Randy, about going on the diagonal up the grid. It's like, and my friend Alon, who he knows you really well, he says it's bottom up, top down, but that the ascension process, it actually goes, it's on the diagonal, like stair steps. And I wondered if you had any insight into that process.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. I look at it from the point of the unici. I look at everything from the encryption of the particle, and what you see is circles within circles. So it's outward, you know, when you're in a density, which is a harmonic universe comprised of three-dimensional bands of consciousness. It's diagonal and horizontal.
Right.
The moving through the gate system from one density to the other would be perceived as being vertical. So there's only, let me put this, there's a difference between portals and gate systems, right? What we see with the gate system is what you're referring to in regard to the two-dimensional image that you see with the Cathara grid, where you're moving like this and that type of thing, and it's yeah. So that I think is more for convenience sake, you know, because of the triunity expression that you find within the particle. Because when you that requires another podcast and something complete, because there's a whole lot of depth that can go into all this, obviously, right?
Right.
But for simplicity's sake, let's just say when you're in a harmonic universe, you can move through portals, which are diagonal and horizontal, and when you transmute and move to this, like for the second harmonic universe, that's really the goal here, you know, because nobody here has 12-strand DNA. That's all been messed with too much. But you can move, and you only move one step at a time, and that's a huge step. You know, it's not an easy task because there's plenty of those who are still here that have not ascended, that's been doing this all their life, so they've had a lot of help. So it's not an easy process. Which brings me back to simplicity. Embodying the love that you've always been will transmute you faster than anything.
So true.
Because you got to look at the first creation, vibration, thought, intention. What is that? It's for the benefit of all life. It's this. Everything's held together by that love, and that's our true nature. You know. So, next thing you know, you're here, and next thing you're not. True story. That's my goal from now on. That's it's, you know, first beginning by loving yourself. Goodness gracious, you know, loving yourself, and then be able to express that wherever it becomes a natural thing to express it. You know, being kind and being pleasant. Oh, this world will try you. It's tried the heck out of me. For sure. You know,
Yeah.
it's a bit easier than it has been. Let's put it that way. But yeah. So, anybody else have anything they want to say? Oh, go back to your friend if she would like to introduce herself.
There she is. Hi.
I've seen you before. I'm not quite sure where, but I've seen you before.
Yeah, I realized I got onto one of these calls a while back.
Is that what it is?
Possibly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I like what you're saying. So that's
Well, thank you for being here.
Thank
And
you.
thank you, you and Laura being able to get together and spend time together and co-create with one another. That's good to hear. Really good to hear.
Yeah.
You know, I find that the Umay Trayinae Kasha Irishar Dikishe, that whole thing is, I mean, it's so transformative. There's a part of my being, it's like, I mean, it's like everything inside my molecules get all restored and reactivated and enlivened, and everything's all aligned. And I go, well, why bother do anything else? I mean, that's kind of where I am right now. I just
which is perfect. It's about, again, to emphasize, and I don't want to belabor this, but it's important to know that it's wherever you're at, and it's not about, okay, I need to move on to something else. It's just like, if you're there and this is really connecting with you, and you're working through joy and you love, and you just, eternally you want to stay, you're there anyhow. It's like, so why, you don't need to, so while you're there, you're transmuting. Okay.
Exactly.
That's what's happening. So yeah, let that happen. Just let it be, find that thing and just rest in it,
Absolutely. And embody it more and more with, deeper and deeper pulsation and light. Yeah. It's just, anyway, I just love it. Thank you.
That's awesome. It's great. Thank you for that, that good word. Yeah. So, Daphne, I know you have to have something to say.
Yeah, I just think that in what we were reading before, what was in quotations, those are so powerful. Like when I read those, it's like it just takes you, like you can hear the words, but it's the experience of feeling it, like Laura is talking about. Like we can all sit here and talk about it and intellectually think of it, but a lot of this is about feeling the love, feeling the energy, feeling that transmutation when you're in that place of like extreme alignment to like who you are and what you're here to do. So, but yeah, I just wanted to read some of those again. The first, creation, vibration, thought, intention. Like I can feel that.
Yeah.
I read it. It's like that's where we all are in that moment of
yeah. The unicide, the point of all union. Yeah. It's true. I don't want to interrupt you. I want you to continue with that. But the feeling, what she's talking about, feeling, everybody, I know you know what she's talking about here, and it's so important to immerse yourself and allow yourself to just. Can I share something before you continue? It's just relevant to a personal experience. Okay, I was having many years ago panic attacks. Got a long history of being here on Earth and everything, so it had related to that. But first time it happened, it was like, totally freaked out. But I had it happen to me when I was on the road, and I don't know if anybody's ever experienced that before, but it can be pretty overwhelming. The world is disappearing, you're dying, and the whole thing. It's really intense. At least it was for me. So because I'm so tenacious, I was on the road, and all I can think of was, this can't happen here because of the people that are here on this road. It's like, this can't happen. So what I decided to do is, my core of my being was to fall into that feeling. Like I just dropped from a cliff into a body of water. And when I did that, I gave and surrendered myself to it and embraced it 100%. Going back to the intention thing, it dissolved. Never had it come again. And part of it had to do with what I had relived when I was bedridden the first time at 33 years old, which is an interesting number. So, yeah. So feeling and giving yourself over to, because nothing can take anything from you. Nothing can take anything unless if you give it. So you being here on Earth, and I don't want to camp out on the negative aspects of here. We all very aware of it. But that false artificial emotion of fear is utilized to trick you into giving things away. You know, but the truth is, no harm can come to you. None. Not unless you want it, or not unless you co-create with it, blah, 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 yada, yada. Feelings, sorry, Daphne. I just wanted to say it's very important that we don't have to worry about those things, you know. Connect, so she, like Daphne, was connect with that. I can feel what she's feeling because I can feel it, you know, because I feel it, you know, we all can feel it, and it's that. So within your momentary space of meditation, whatever it is, or moment, it's out. Daphne, share something about, if you would, if I could get you to do this, share something about being in the woods and your time within that calm and relax where you're able to meditate and give an instance, if you could, within a moment that can flow. If you can graphically, I'm putting you on the spot, but if you can graphically paint a picture of that to share with everybody here, I think that would be nice to emphasize what you're referring to.
Definitely connect a lot with nature. I think a lot of us do that, feel a lot. But it's interesting. I really haven't been able to, I haven't done a lot of meditation the same way. So when I'm at home and I meditate, it's completely different than when I'm in nature. Because when I'm in nature, I think the energy, like when I'm in my room, I'm the energy. When I'm in nature, you're surrounded in so many different energies. So I feel like a little kid when I'm in nature, like I'm going through it and I'm like, oh, what am I going to see next? Oh, I saw a little puddle of rainwater on a leaf and it was shimmering and the sun hit it. And it just, you know, I see little things like that where I feel like I'm a little kid. Or I found these purple mushrooms one time and I was like, I've never seen a purple mushroom. Just like,
You didn't
it's
take them, did you? No, I'm just
like, I
kidding.
can't believe this is happening. Yeah, no, I didn't eat it. No,
Yeah.
I did take a picture of it. But
No, on a soul level, I mean, the soul is childlike. Now, you know, it's exactly that. Yeah, on the other side, like when we come into a reality field, a lot of, if it's intentional to come into the field, not getting stuck and getting recycled, that's a different story, right? But if you intentionally come in, you plan things out and you rehearse things, you know, and something might happen here that you plan to do in order so that you could further expand and add to the perpetuation of the creation, because that's what it's about. It might be a really intense experience. Without getting graphic, you can fill in the space with what I might be referring to or could be referring to. But on the other side, you're laughing about it because you know that's not you, that's experiencing self differently. It's manifest reality is a very awesome experience, but it's also a tool. It's a tool to help to perpetuate creation, putting yourself in circumstances that creates different experiences so that you can see how that you can utilize the tool that is manifest reality to further perpetuate creation. Here's the key: for the benefit of all life. That's quite the challenge, especially places like this. But that's really the objective. Say, if someone was to ask me, what's your purpose here, Randy? To embody the love that I've always been here. Because that's the most effective thing. Whatever I do, whether it's music, it doesn't matter what it is that I do, it's the intention and the energy behind it that makes all the difference. And that's the goal, because it's a challenge here to become that embodiment. And again, to emphasize through a lot of my experiences, has been in the process of letting go, or even in a lot of cases forced to let go, because on a soul level, I intended it to happen. It's like, this is, you're a bit slow here. Let's move it along. And those things, I got kind of upset a while back about that orchestration being moved around like a puppet. But the more that you embody truly who you are, the much easier that is to understand, and the purpose behind it, and that it's you that's doing it ultimately, but anyhow, yeah, thanks, Daphne. Sorry, didn't mean to interject so much. So does anybody else want to talk about what we just, because we got a long way to go, but we don't want to go too long here. Everybody let me know how long you want to stay and that type of, we can extend this to next Saturday and so forth, because there's a whole lot to actually cover. And, but it's more important, I think, that we have some developing some kind of connection with one another here. I think that's the most important thing. So you let me know. I will shut up now.
Yeah, we're at about 58 minutes. So I don't know. What do we
You want
think?
to add to anybody? Hank, Zach, Jennifer, Laura, Pam, anybody want to add to this or anything? Anything?
So you believe that on the other side that your soul is getting a kick out of your manifest decisions
Well,
in some cases, or like
that's a slippery slope, because a lot of people that I know and myself personally were locked into this loop. I got a long history here within this universe, this particular universe. I can remember it's connected to Maldek, so I go back a ways, right? I kind of not kinda. It's hard to. I really don't want to talk about this too much because it requires a lot to explain. But just to say, I don't believe anything necessarily. I do a little bit of believing, but mostly it's knowing. And who you are as a soul, this is just a spark of who you are here. So a soul is it's individuated, but individuated many times over all at once. So this aspect of yourself here, when outside of the arena, so to speak, you're planning, because it's about your intention. Again, going back to the idea of what is this all about? Well, it's about co-creating. It's about perpetuating the creation. We're creators. And so this is a playing field in order to be able to facilitate that through experience. So you come here to experience yourself differently. So, which implies that you're not like this. Okay. So yes, these things are planned when they're planned. But if you have been caught in a loop, and I've noticed for myself and another person specifically, they have recovered a lot of information and they were dumped here. And I know this person's story, and they don't talk about their experiences very much, except for like in private, it'll come up in context, but they got like a shipload of experiences. But experiences are not that important to hear. They're important to have and know what they are when you have them. And that's a personal thing. So, because a lot of people I'm not being snarky when I say this. It's just is what it is. You can take it for whatever it's worth. A lot of people have built careers on communicating their experiences. I don't think experiences are that important for people to hear. There's a story, and they just get entertained with it or something, and they don't really go very far with it. It might be a spark and help them, and I can see the relevancy of that. Okay, certainly can. But there's usually it's not really what happens. They'll hear something and then they just find entertaining, and they just kind of stay where they're at. Um, like the friend of mine I was talking about, his idea was here's the tools that you can, in order to get experiences outside of this realm so that you can have your own recovery. And that's really what it's about, because to be able to, again, to emphasize, I'll use the expression, to be able to help one another. I mean, there's different degrees of that, right? But when you truly expand, that's when you're really able to assist, further. Because the change that it's occurring with you allows you to be able to see and know certain things to where maybe before you would have ignored it. There's a long list behind with what I'm saying, obviously, different type of things that you become aware of, not just within yourself, but with others, and you have a greater sensitivity and even as a being an open medium, so to speak, not medium in the sense of a person who comes between somebody to speak to the the other across the veil. That's not what I'm talking about. But become like a radio signal receiver, where you're able to hear things. This person needs help, or this is what they blah, things like that. You can't hear those things when you're focused on all the mundane things. And as we transmute, we start to become more receptive to that. Our higher faculties start to engage, and we become more and more aware. So, yeah. And that's, through our process. Other people can assist one another through stories, but I kind of refrain from those things mostly because I don't see it as being important to somebody else, unless it's in context to something that you're trying to communicate. In my case, that would be the thing. But anyhow, yeah. So it's knowing, not believing. That's preferable.
Yeah, being able to interpret your own stories are way more important than listening to other people's.
Absolutely.
So coming to you, it's important that we're taking it in and with a clear vision or a clear knowing, and then using it for ourselves, where we can get lost in other people's stories for sure.
Yeah. And
And
it's
distraction.
well, it's Daphne, you would know this for sure. It's sharing your story with people that are not ready to hear or can't hear it is very paralyzing sometimes for you personally. Not you, but I'm talking about generally speaking. For me, it has been where I just I want to give it all away. I want to share everything. It's just, that's the soul part of me is like, now, but in a good way. Okay. But you can't give your story away here just to anybody. People have to earn your respect and vice versa and be able to share it in confidentiality,
Yeah, when you do have a similar story to someone else, it can be impactful too, because then, oh wait, there's some verification that I'm not the only one. But
Right.
oftentimes people get lost in the stories, and that's not the case.
That's a perfect point to make in regard to how a story can benefit. And that was, personally speaking, that was when I came online, because of all the things that I experienced. It's like I heard a couple. It was only like two people. Okay, then I go, oh, they know too.
Right.
Which can be, especially as you're going through certain processes, and it can be very helpful, encouraging, whatever adjective you would want to put to that. But it's helps assisted in that way. So there is a benefit to it, but usually the cases, a lot of cases they'll stop just at the story, So it's very selective. I guess maybe that's probably the better word to use here. Selective in that respect of how it can be beneficial. At least that's the way it's been for me. And I guess Daphne, that's what you were kind of saying as well. Or exactly saying.
Also, what he was asking, made me think of also, like, I just imagine, like, sometimes our higher selves are all like up there, like they're together, they're discussing, you know, this important thing, and we're like giving each other high fives. We came together, we're
Yeah,
doing it.
yeah,
So that's
it's
what kind of how I took what you were saying, like, or when something really challenging comes into your life, they're like, oh, they're rooting for you because it's really hard, but it's in order for you to overcome something a lot of times, you know.
well,
It's
most of the time for me.
but yeah, I don't know if
Spent a whole
that's what
lifetime of that.
I took it, what you were saying. Like, I just imagine a lot of us up there giving each other high fives when we like help each other out, or we share a story like that, or um start expanding and sharing energy with each other and growing together. So, that being said, I appreciate everyone here and your energy.
Awesome. Thank you, Daphne.
I appreciate this talk about stories because a story, what is a story? Experiences that have not been fully integrated and understood and become congruent with our true self, these stories keep needing to be told until we, as the witness and observer of the way we keep telling stories, you know, it's like almost enough already, you know, get the lesson that this story had, that this experience had for you, and move on. And, you know, I mean, I have themes in my life, of recurring themes that are really irritating. And, you know, and I was like, oh God, I'm telling this story again. When am I going to get this? And, you know, and then I run the codes, or I sing them, and it's like poof, evaporation of all story, and only presence and only love, and to stay there, you know. But then this human tendency, oh, but I'm just so enamored by this story, and enough already. And, you know, and then the cycle keeps going on as the seasons change. And anyway, just thank you that we can share this together, and I can look at these recurring irritating themes and give it up.
It's all process. It's renewing our minds every day to the moment that we're in.
Yeah.
You know, it's not. If I could say this, and I'm going to go ahead and put this in the chat, so anybody decides to read this can go ahead and read it. We're going to go on to the Kelon and Kelon grid, or codes. Anyhow, but it's just renewing yourself in the moment. It's easy. It's an easy thing. It's not something we need to burden ourselves with. We don't need to burden ourselves with any of this. And I guess to kind of put a cap on what Laura just said there, that's really it, isn't it? It's not burdening ourselves. It's letting go, and just where you know to be within you. It's like, there's my joy. This is my release. Well, what am I waiting for? it's there, available to us. So I'm looking off at the corner because I heard somebody bang on the house. Okay, they need to speak. They can bang again. Oh, you lost your internet connection?
Oh, she's back.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry, I lost my internet connection.
I was trying to make out who that was. I was looking around. Good to have you back. Were you gone for very long? Because I couldn't tell. I was kind of looking down at stuff. So
I was trying to figure out what happened.
well, it's better now. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's
Disconnected
good.
again.
I was having a hard time hearing you when you first came on.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So it's much more clear now.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Great. Awesome. So does anybody want to read the next one? Because we're going to go over each element. At least we can do that for this this particular session. If you don't mind, if you don't want to, we can put it off. And but might I say, let me add this if I can. Hank, are you still here?
No, let's see him.
Is he up in the corner there?
No, I don't think he's here. I don't know if he lost connection or what.
The guest user.
Oh, is he here?
It's the microphone's muted, so he might had to go to the restroom or something. I'll look at that later and address it later. He might had to go off. Let's see, where was I going with this?
We were doing
Now I forgot. Oh yeah, forgot what I was going to say. This is what this is really all about: is the knowing your multidimensional anatomy and knowing how to move energy and why. So learning about the DNA and the structure and these 6 elements is all going to relate to that, because it's really one and the same with just many different functions. So you'll start seeing your multidimensional anatomy, start seeing the tones, and you'll start looking at it like a circuit, because it is a circuit. So it's true. One way to describe it is definitely a circuit. So at any rate, no hurries, no worries. But there's Hank. There he is. Okay, great. You disappeared
Sorry.
there for a second. I was wondering where you went. So
Yeah,
okay.
we had. I was making. Yeah, I'm back.
Cool. Thanks, man. So does anybody want to read the next thing we have in the chat here, which is the
Yeah, I'll do it. Let me pull it up.
Okay. I kind of skipped. I kind of skipped. No, I didn't kind of. I literally skipped
the
part of Kai strands, which is, after you see this, you won't need it anyhow, because you'll see how everything is just, it's creating a fabric. So that's the way I like to put it, the fabric of creation. That's my expression for the morphogenic field. By the way, the Partakai has a morphogenic field around it itself. So
Interesting.
It's all the same thing. So anyhow, I'm sorry. Anybody?
Yeah, I'll read it.
Okay.
So a chelon or chelon grid is crystallized frequency. This is what gives form its density. Density is determined by the electromagnetic field ratios. Another name for this would be Merkaba fields. So this can also be understood as it relates to the fields/realms particle spin. Chelon codes are formed structure of chelons, which creates the crystalline latticework grid structure. This is also to be referred to as the morphogenic field or the Partakai grid.
You see how all this start to relate with one another? Anybody have anything to add to this or talk about? I want to go ahead and mute my mic because I have the tendency to speak too much. So I will mute my mic, and if it goes to dead air, that's not my fault.
How about you guys? I almost feel like I need to read it again.
Me too.
All right.
Yeah, read it.
But
Okay.
Hank did a great job, but I feel like we need to read it again.
Go for
Chelon
it.
or chelon grid is crystallized frequency. This is what gives form its density. Density is determined by electromagnetic field ratios. Another name for this would be Merkaba fields. So this can also be understood as it relates to the fields/realms particle spin. Chelon codes are a formed structure of chelons, which create the crystallized lattice work grid structure. This is also to be referred to as the morphogenic field or Partakai grid.
Chelon codes. So the Kelon codes are the morphogenetic field. I wonder if that's the picture that you get when the spin is going around the atom. You know how it spins like that? When you have the picture of the atom in the middle and then it's spinning. I don't
Right.
know picture of it, but that's what it reminded me of.
Well, the opening for what or defining what a Kelon or Kelon grid is crystallized frequency. So I speaking of experiences, I didn't really want to share this necessarily because it really goes down another rabbit hole, but it's relevant because I've seen actually what this looks like face to face. And I was 12 years old at the time. So we're talking about a field, okay? We're talking about crystallized frequency. So there's form there. So if you think of like weaving, this is not the picture you want to have in your head, but just it's the idea behind it, okay? Think of you're weaving a rug. Okay, you start off with that rug and it's thin, and then you want to make it thicker. You add more material to it. So this is what Kelon's is doing in regard to the morphogenic field. It's creating the space, so to speak, so the hologram experience can be had, okay? Because there's a lot of ways to define what the morphogenic field is. One of the best ways to do that is how your computer screen or your TV screen works. Because we're dealing with frequency and color is the same thing. Okay. Certain frequencies produce a color. Sound vibration actually has a color. It's oscillation, vibration, just two opposite expressions of one another, but they're the same thing. Let me see if I don't want to confuse this, but if you think of the vibration holding the code or the encryption for form. So what is form? Form is light. Dense light, okay? But it's the hologram. You become the hologram to experience the hologram within it, right? So it feels dense and all this other stuff, and it feels real and all these things, as it should. That's because you have interfaced using a hologram. So the experience becomes real, right? That's the whole point. So when you look at like a computer screen and you're seeing these images like I'm seeing you and you're seeing me, what is this? These are pixels, right? So when you're looking at a morphogenic field, you can think of it as a big screen. There are flash line sequences taking place because that's what's happening here, right? With your monitor or TV, whatever you're looking at. It's flashing on and off, right? And the information and the codes within each aspect of that image being projected is what you're seeing as the finished result. So think of the morphogenic field as a blank screen. That code is put within it in order to have the image being manifest within it. That's what manifest reality is, and that's what Kelons are. It's densifying this flash line sequence, and it's crystalline. The initial form that we would see of ourselves outside of the spherical orb type of thing, you would see that, which is a container, by the way, its form in itself is on the subatomic level. It's going to look crystalline. Everything's crystalline. So that's why it's referring to what a Kelon or Kelon grid is, crystallized frequency. Now to go back to my story that I didn't tell. I had this abduction experience when I was 12 years old. And it's a long story. I'm going to bore you with all that. But I seen this grid around the home that I lived in. It was sort of like, you can think of it like a force field, but it was pulsing. It was living, breathing, and it had form, which is interesting, not to draw comparisons, but if anybody's seen Predator, kind of like that type of form, shape, in regard, not like the being, but I was like 4 feet away from this, okay? And it had this, the best way for me to explain is this, it had a look of polymer to it, if you know what a polymer grid looks like. But it's crystalline and it was pulsing and it was extremely loud, but it didn't affect, my hearing or whatever. It's just, but it had a lot of energy that was coming from it. And when I ran across much later this definition in Keylontic science, I go, I seen that. I know exactly what it is. I couldn't find any way to be able to find something out there that I could say, hey, it looked like this, but the emphasis here, if there's anything to be emphasized here, is that it was alive. It was conscious. That was the first thing that was impressionable. And, speaking of experiences, in context, it would make sense for me to tell the experience, but it's too long. But in the future date, if anybody wants to hear that, I'll bring it up because it entails actually quite a bit in regard to energy and consciousness. Very interesting, actually, especially as I get older and relive those things. Take myself back there and relive it. And I go, wow, that's pretty cool. But anyhow, that wasn't necessarily the experience at the time, at least not at the end. But what I did experience. So in respect to the holographic field that we're in, the manifest reality, in other words, another word for it is manifest reality. We come into this. Does anybody have any questions or anything they want to add to that with what I just said? Did it make any sense to you, or whatever you want to throw in there?
It kind of sparked a couple of different questions for me. I don't know if it would necessarily be too deep, but like, let me go back to the chat. So it said that the density is determined by the electromagnetic field ratios. So that means that, so if we are in a distorted density, in density 1 or harmonic universe 1, and we're not experiencing things the way that we should, as if there's a glass slide in between, like, or if somebody said it was like a tree and there's a glass slide between the tree, which is you, and then the roots that goes into the earth, which is source. So if you step up into harmonic universe 2 and that density change, the beings there, are they also distorted? And are they, so they're able to, depending on their evolutionary timeline, they're able to more easily go up or down to see themselves in different existences. Can they, I'm just trying to, it's hard for me to picture. And I guess I want to know, like, would a being from dimension 4 be able to just see a dimensional 5 being around, or will they have to step through a gate to see that, or gate through their mind? Like, does that make any?
No, it does. I know where you're going with this.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a pretty slippery slope because we start getting into the fallen and we start getting into choices that have been made within manifest reality and all the agendas that are involved, which is like the sands of the sea. Yeah. It gets pretty deep, The main, I'm not looking to skirt your question, certainly, but I'm just saying it's really pretty involved. So I would, the main objective for everything that I've been doing and a lot of things I've been avoiding for a long time, since 1983, I've been looking at the New World Order. And I've been looking at all these things been transpiring and all this stuff, and and these devices and yada yada yada, all these things that I know how things need to go before things could be set up for the next stage. I lived through a lot of this stuff and been watching it pretty intently at certain points, but I don't really have anything to say about it on my channel. Why is that? Because that's not part of my work. Solutions are part of my work.
Amen.
And so I understand the question that you're bringing up, and then need to know these things. The information's there, and I even have some of it on my channel. And I have personal experiences that I've dealt with directly with some of these entities. Okay. Like I said, I was in ministry for like 15 years. I've been involved with demon possession and things like that, and exorcism. So I have a lot of personal experiences since early childhood, a lot of things, different entities and stuff like that. So I know a little bit about it through personal experience. Actually, I know a lot about it. But the point is that what I learned over the many years was getting distracted by the phenomenon, which I refer to the drama as being phenomenon. Anything that might come through it, whether it's technology or whatever is being used, is where people get captivated. So their attention goes there, and therefore so does their energy. And it's hard to, at least from my perspective and what I've been doing, to try to kind of redirect people, because that's much more interesting to them. But I know where that goes. Absolutely nowhere. And that'll just recycle you right back here again. The point is that to emphasize how you can be liberated personally, and then work co-creatively through your liberation. Again, going back to the idea of expansion, when you're truly expanding is where you're able to truly to assist. Not that you couldn't assist before, but the more that you become integrated, the more you have the ability, because your higher faculties are starting to, turn on, and so you're becoming more and more connected, and therefore you're able to facilitate more. That is really the goal that, for myself, especially now, I took a couple of weeks off where I could just focus on me, and I'm kind of rebooted, at this stage a bit. And I'm highly thankful for that time to be able to do that. But again, to emphasize, this is the reason why I've been doing what I've been doing, period. Kind of just, in a lot of cases, just tilting my head down and leaning forward and moving forward, regardless of the circumstances. That tenacity I learned through a lot of, difficulty in life. So, but I can't answer it in this way. If this actually, this is in context, so hopefully this does help. Because of the nature of the design of the construct, be it that is a consciousness construct, you have to watch where your intention goes. So a lot of beings that are outside of this, that are benevolent, do not engage or connect with certain things, because if they did, it would pull them into it. You see what I'm saying? So it's best not to pay too much attention. It's important to be wise, because working through love without wisdom is counterproductive. Being wise, but be loving, and be focusing on what's good for you. And that's not being selfish. That's that's putting yourself in a position to be able to be truly accessible, in the right way. So again, to emphasize, this is the reason why a lot of beings do not engage, because being that they're benevolent and they do what they can do, but they won't do any more than that, because they understand how things work. I mean, if you're outside of this field, as an example, you're out of the body, you're outside this field, and you have the potential to be able to come back into it again, all you need is the desire, and you're there. That's not a controlled situation. That is based on the mechanics in relationship to consciousness, because you desired that. Therefore, it's like, okay, I thought I was supposed to be in a tunnel. Well, you're in a tunnel. Okay. It's the same type of thing in regard to your intention. So the intention has to be clear. It has to be specific. And again, if I might add, the reason for doing this primarily is what's going on in Patreon and the multidimensional anatomy, and being able to facilitate energy and how to move energy, knowing how, what to do and why you're doing it. It's a very specific intention. And in order for things to advance for you, you have to be very specific, and you have to have very specific tools with what you're doing. But the primary catalyst behind it is your intention behind it, because the tool itself won't work if you don't use it, if you know what I mean. And if you're more skilled with that tool, the more that you can do with it. All of a sudden, everything changed.
Somebody selected the group view. We're all hanging out.
Yeah, I used that once before and I couldn't figure out how to get out of it. Took a while.
Well, one person selects it and it happens to us all. Or these little heads now.
This looks goofy. I don't mind it though, actually. I have to say
I think I did that on accident. Apologies.
It's all right.
I'm still learning Skype.
If anybody wants to take it back to what it was, that's fine. If we'll just continue with that. Hank, does that make any sense to you? I mean, if I can direct you towards things that you can look into further and for self-study, but overall though, in regard to what we have to do here personally, it's took many years for me to get past a lot of things, to know I've been distracted a lot. And that's a whole lot of what's occurring here. But it's important to be wise. It's to know what's enough to know what you need to be doing personally on your path. So yeah. So yeah, let me know. We can contact privately about that or whatever, and I can do what I can to assist with that. So.
Thank you. Yeah, that'd be great. I'll chew on that for a bit. I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Okay, I mean, we could really spend a whole lot of time with these. We haven't even got to the quiz yet. We're not even close to it. And I think we're getting kind of, it depends on you folks, what you want to do. If you want to continue, let me know. If you wish to pick this up another time, let me know.
Yeah, I need to hop off soon.
Okay.
I'd love to.
I want everybody to be here. So if that's, how long you have, Laura?
Well, I'm just kind of waiting it to come to a good pause, and then I got to go by 5.
Okay. Well, we can pick this up from, where we left off here, and or we can go ahead and finish just this one part of it, and everybody can perhaps listen to this again, on a replay. And that way, next time we get together, we can go right into the quiz, and then we can get into some of the chemistry aspects of DNA and look at the idea of the transmutation, such as the example we have carbon molecules within these base pair aspects of the helix, right? And what is the next one to be engaged? Well, it's carbon silica. How is that going to bond to the carbon, through the idea of transmutations, things like that, where we can just, glean a little bit of that. But mainly this is about how it works and how you can see it in multiple ways within different aspects of function within the construct's design. Hopefully I didn't confuse with what I just said there, but when we look at the Partikai, we can see that encryption within everything, So we look at electromagnetic fields. You say, well, Merkaba, you start seeing all this. You see the geometry that's related to certain frequency and so on and so forth. But that it's this thing right here. So when you are intending within the process of meditation or singing and toning and your multidimensional anatomy, which what I'm sharing within Patreon, you see how it works, and you can see the relationship. Okay, why is this here? Then why is this there? Why is 15 here and 14 there? When you start seeing it within circles like a circuit, then you go, oh, okay, I get it. I know why it's like this now. That strengthens your intention. So when you start going into personal practice, meditation, or let me just add this, when you really know that well, you can come up with your own techniques. You can frequency blend. You can do all these different things yourself. And that's really, really, really important because it becomes quite personal. Like the thing with me as far as I'm going to create the new song. You know, it may be wrong to everybody else, but it's right for me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there it is. Oh, we can go ahead and finish. Oh, we don't have too much. Let me see how much longer we got. Let me give me a second here. I'll figure this out. We should be able to get through this probably in the next. How about within the next 15 minutes, we can go through this? Is that okay? Think you can do that? Because we're gonna cover the morphogenic field and light symbol codes and just read through those and just throw our 2 cents in on that. And because like I said, we can go back over this stuff, or let me see here. Yeah, we can always cover this again, you know. But that's not what this was all about. It was about getting to know each other and kind of just creating some connection. So
what you're saying, Randy, about the circles that they're interwoven, like with the key rache, with those 3 circles, in the center is that symbol. I forget. I don't know what that. It's a mathematical symbol.
Right. We're gonna cover the light symbol codes, and that'll probably bring a little bit more to this. But go ahead and finish what you were saying.
I think it's called the Vesica Pisces.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
At some point, I'd really love for you to explain why that's right in the center of everything. And
you guys hearing that?
I couldn't hear her.
I hear a bunch of distortion and static.
Yeah, too.
Yeah. Is that on Laura's end? Laura, can you hear that? Is it coming from me? No, it's not coming from me, I don't think.
Someone might have to.
Everybody mute their mic real quick. Has everybody muted their mic?
I'm trying.
Okay. Well, let me know when you all do, so I'm trying to isolate this.
What is it?
Okay. Well, yeah, I can't tell. It's still going on. I don't know if everybody's, because of the way things are laid out here, I can't see whose mic's muted. Give me a second here. I'll try to figure it out.
Mine's muted.
I got the recorded thing here that's in the way of being able to see what's going on. Oh, okay. Jennifer just muted hers. Everybody bring it back on except for Jennifer. Go ahead and unmute your mics. Okay, that one that just came, who just turned it back on?
Cam's microphones malfunction.
Okay,
that's me right there.
Okay, well, it's okay. Well, I spent too much time with that. Anybody want to read the on the morphogenic field, or I can read it? How about that? So the morphogenic field, this is to understand as being space-time. Okay, we just kind of covered the idea of what we're talking about, the pixelization and the density of chelons, and so we're creating the morphogenic field. Space-time, also referred to as being space-time, or which I prefer to use as the fabric of creation. It's where everything is manifested on. So this is through which the holographic experience takes place. All things are manifest, that is constructed, pixelated within the flash line sequences of the time matrix. another way to perceive the idea of the hologram or the morphogenic field, or which is occurring as scalar wave sequences, okay, is like, think of Christmas time just happened here, so think of like somebody having a really cool Christmas display lights, and they have, people standing out there, and the lights are going within a sequence, and it looks like it's moving, right? But it's not. Lights are stationary. It's creating the illusion of movement. So thinking of that as a standing wave, moving into the hologram and becoming part of the hologram, it's the perception is now that you're part of the hologram. You're experiencing the sensation of the reality of being within the field. On the outside, it's actually just stationary points of light that are flashing or going through a fusion fission, flashing on and flashing off. One's flashing on to to the like Particum universe and Particade universe, two different things. So one's off, that's the universe it is, and the other one is the opposite of that. That's what creates parallel realities. Okay. And there's a multiple of time matrices, infinite. So that's the reason why we have all these different reality fields within fields within fields within fields. So anyhow, I'm just going to go. I'll go ahead and read, unless somebody else wants to read the next one, which will be for. I'm just going to go through this really quick. For give me a second here. I got things popping up on my computer. It's like, get out of the way. I can't see. It's like, can't you hear what I'm saying? I said that earlier. I couldn't see. All right. So. All right. All right, so this is for the light symbol codes. If anybody wants to read this, this will be the last thing that we cover before we go ahead and close out. Like I said, we're going to be revisiting this, so here we go. All righty.
Okay. Is it okay if I read it?
Absolutely.
Okay. One second. Just making sure I've got the right one. Okay, the light symbol codes. These are frequency corridors, light spectra structure, which allows for the movement of specific energy and or current. Each symbol code can be perceived like that of an electronic component within a very intricate circuit. Be if that were energetic beings, these are energetic pathways of very specific vibration and frequency, or vibration and oscillation. This is similar to that of a signet or stargate, which behaves like a frequency modulator.
Great, thank you, Pam. So, does this make sense to anybody? Anybody have any input about?
Reading. Jennifer was reading.
Oh.
Thank you, Jennifer, for reading.
It's okay.
Yeah, I have a question about that. So it says the light symbol codes, these are frequency corridors. So within our dimensional, within dimension 3, like how many quote unquote frequency corridors are within the third dimension? Like, is that, I know it might be a stupid question, but just could you, I'm just having trouble visualizing a lot of this stuff. And
well, that's okay. That's the reason why I probably should have put it in bold print in regard to being electronic components, because thinking of this as a circuit that's going to come up anyhow when dealing with the multidimensional anatomy aspect that's been I've been communicating with in Patreon. It's to see things in a way that, like what you're saying, Hank, that you can paint a picture, right? Say, I need to be able to understand it, visualize it enough to know what this means to me.
Yeah, to be able to.
Yeah. When we start getting into these expanded consciousness bands, these are referred to as within the quadrants, those quadrants as being God worlds. These are Veka codes, which means location, really. So within these higher, quote unquote, I don't really like using the word higher because it's really not higher. The frequency is meaning the oscillation is, but it's less dense and so on and so forth. But that's what we're talking about. So we're talking about, I guess, to paint a picture of the pathway. And let me see if I can come up with something off my cuff here. Well, let's say you're going to take a trip someplace, and there's a lot of roadways that can take you to that place. But before you can enter like a city, okay, as an example, just I'm not being literal and just figurative, but this will give you an idea. You have a station where you have to go through, and in order for you to be able to go through into that city, you have to qualify for that. Okay, this is one way to look at it. So in this case, it's about holding certain current, and there's this fail safe behind this as well. Okay, it's like I mentioned this as being similar to that of signets and Stargate. Signets, Stargate's the same thing. Okay, just another name. As being a frequency modulator. Okay, when you have the ability or have you hold the codes within you, then you're able to activate, which becomes activated, should I say, is your Merkaba vehicle, which allows you, because now you hold the codes to be able to move through the Stargate, and transmutation occurs immediately all at the same time. It's kind of like it's all simultaneous. Okay. It's similar to that. You have to be able to hold that before you can go through the passage. And these these codes, these light codes, you think of it as being very, very elaborate. And let me see how to put this. Well, I don't want to paint too many wrong pictures because I'm trying to come up with. Think of a crystalline structure that is so extremely intricate, and it allows for a certain ability for the pathway of current to move through it, like a circuit that you have. We just using simple components, a resistor, capacitor, and so forth. All these things function a certain way in order to be able to cause current to move within a certain pathway. So these shapes, these geometric shapes, are refracting consciousness through these light fields, right? And in your consciousness, you have to hold a certain ability to be able to move through them. Okay. And to back up without getting complicated, because it's already become that way, you being the love that you've always been is your passageway. Always. That's the reason why I emphasize that is the most important thing to focus on here. And joy and love was Laura was talking about in regard to her experience with it. It's like, why am I wasting time with this? I know where it's at, and just go there, because that's going to create the transmutation. That's the process. And to be the hold and embody the love that you've always been. First creation vibration, thought, intention. What is what? For the benefit of all life. Love holds it all together. That's your card. There you go. And when you carry that, that's gonna open up everything else. It's the catalyst for everything in regard to anything that we do. So go back to the first thing that Pam was talking about before everybody had arrived, about making this stuff simple. That's been my goal, to do that, to make it simple, to say, okay, it's this. And sometimes it sounds so simple, it sounds cliche, and a lot of people ignore it, because you can do a deep dive, all right. You can spend generations with one thing. Why? You do know where you're at. This place is not hospitable to ascension. If you come here to ascend, I don't think one knows. If someone come here to ascend, good luck to you. But I don't think that's the reason for you coming here. You didn't come here for that. You come here to assist, and to do it through love, and to express yourself in an authentic way, in demonstration, because I've experienced this through the demonstration of power, not word, power. Having somebody healed of cancer, that's a demonstration of power. You know, power not in the wrong way, power in the right way. You know? So all this really, for me personally, comes from my personal experiences. In some cases, dire situations, really tried situations. You know, it's sort of like the idea. You know, I don't want to go off the rails too much here, but it's like if somebody experiences, you know, a near-death experience, they're not afraid of dying anymore. Hello. So you find the things that are most important, and you realize, hey, it's that simple. When I had experienced what I experienced being bedridden first time, things clicked, turned on, and I was able to see the intention of the heart through people. And these are natural, normal attributes that we have. You know, it's only here that things seem to, or, you know, seem to be concealed and all that stuff, but they're not. You know, and I think when we start looking at ourselves like that, in the way that it's not about doing something wrong or not doing something right or whatever. It's just being free to know that, hey, this is the way of things have always been. It's just the illusion here is that to think that way, you know, that's not true. But it is. There's nothing that goes on that's not revealed, and there's no judgment. Only judgment that's brought to it is the judgment you bring to it. You know, so just be who you are. Be the thing that you know to do, right? And that's really going to move you faster if you know, because you're not going to be looking for any results when you do that. You're just reintegrating. And it just happens before you know. It's like, you know, experience, oh, I relived this and yeah, I didn't plan that, you know. And I'm sure there's got a few here that share the same type of thing. You have these experiences and you didn't plan it. You just happened because you were doing certain things at the time that facilitated that to, you know, come to you know, reintegrating it, you know, certain things that you have intentions over perhaps over the years that are just there. You're not really thinking about them. You dealt with them before, but they're just there. They're kind of like waiting, you know, and then within the transition, you know, your reintegration, those things boop, pop up to the surface. Oh, okay, that's what that was. You know, no big deal. You don't think too much of it at the time, you know, you're just like, oh, well, that's cool. Now I know, you know, that type of thing. But anyhow, yes, thank you for all being here. And hopefully we can do this again. And I would like to continue this. That's up to you though. So.
Can I add one thing really quick?
Absolutely. Please do.
So, like with these terms and what we're talking about here, I feel like it's important to mention that sometimes you have to dive into them and step back, and then dive into them and step back, and they make more sense as you go on. Let's just put it that way.
Right. Well, I
Um,
want to do something.
so, like, we
I
have
want to
these.
mention this because on the I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I know people want to go and it's cut short, but I want you to finish that. But I want to say this, if you don't mind. I need to do this because I was thinking about all the stuff in regard to the multidimensional and all the videos that I want to put it all together in one thing and in all the PDFs. That's going to take a while for me to figure out how to do, but I'm going to put all that together. So, and then post that along with when I post the heroic breath current video as well, and put those together in there so everybody will see it at the time that it's uploaded. That way you can go to that. So I think it'd just be a lot more helpful. What do you think, Daphne?
Yeah, that would be helpful. And what I wanted to say was that, like, there are pieces of it that have come to me that I know that, like, I need to consciously hear and understand, but it takes a while to integrate it as well. So, like, if you're reading this right away and you feel a little lost, it's okay that you're
Right.
getting the right amount of what you need in each moment, I feel like, when we come together like this. But
Good
it's
point.
not like you're going to get it the first time, or but we all sort of we're all different, so we all come to it a little bit of a different way. So that's
Right.
why it can take time to interact with this information, and it mean
Well,
different things to different people. Like different people will take to heart different points. But it's a growth process. It's like you said, it's a process.
yeah, it certainly is. It certainly is. Um, and the reason why I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was like, I wanted to get it out before I forget to do it. Because I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention that might be listening. But I just say, 14 years online doing what I've been doing, I know people lose things and and so that happens in Patreon. I have all the videos there, but they're spaced out. And, I go, yeah, but I give it when I'm able to give it. And that's the reason why it's like that. I don't finish the whole thing. I'm always in the moment. And it's like, I don't plan to do things, and a lot of things just come through me and I create it as it's happening. Long story short is that it's important to be able to, what you're talking about with the information, the words. I simplify it as much as possible when I put it together in videos. So when you're looking at it, it's like, well, oh, wait a second, that's that word, and that word is also used for that. And then, you start to make sense of it in that way. But from a practical level, that's what this is about, is application, is knowing your multidimensional anatomy. Again, to emphasize, you're able to, once you know how to facilitate that, you can come up with your own techniques. And how empowering is that? For me, that's really what it's always been about, and why I put together the sound and light techniques, which nobody really does anything with. The whole idea was like, let's make this simpler. Let's make it simple. And it's not easy to make things complicated simple, at least it has been for me, but I have thrown the doors open many years ago, and with my intention. And not to refrain from the idea of expectation, but I'll use that term. I expected that, and over a period of time, it's developed where I can do that. I don't have to study it. I just look at it, I know it, and I go with it. I don't wait. If I wait, it'll never happen, And that's something I would like to pass on to everybody here. Don't wait till you figure things out before you do it.
Yeah.
In the process, on the job training, whatever way you want to put it, but just do it, and find, like Laura was talking about, when you find things that that works for you, encourage yourself to go to that in that moment, or as soon as it's in your awareness, do it. Don't put it on the shelf. I found that to be a mistake with me. I'll never do anything if I think about doing it, outside of the time that I'm in. I have to at least start it. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. That's how I've done everything. Seriously. So it may seem like I really worked at it, but I did. It's such, doing these video things is something else. I tell you that. It was a lot easier in the world when dealing people. That's so much easier compared. You have to work 3 or 4 times harder to do it this way, But I'm very tenacious, so obviously I wouldn't be here. Trust me, if I wasn't. Anyhow.
So your
Thank you,
videos
folks.
are great with all and when we see it with all the visuals that you
Yeah.
add to a lot of your videos, so it's helpful as well. I find.
Well, thank you. I want, I just revealing myself here. I just wanted to make it, I wanted for it to be easy as it can for everybody, so that we can work together. That's really what it's about. I don't need to be right about anything either. I just want to be that I am, and work through love and the proper intention. And that's what I look to do as much as I can. I'm getting better at it. So, right, folks, thank you so much for being here. Hopefully this was beneficial to you.
Thank you, Randy.
And
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
and if you would like to do this coming Saturday coming up, let's do it. we'll stick with we can kind of fluctuate with the time frame scheduling if that's something that we need to do. But 3 o'clock next Saturday, is that good for everybody?
All right, sounds
think
good
so.
for that.
Yeah.
All right, folks. All right, so I'll work towards uploading those videos in Patreon and getting this actually up on YouTube for those who also may continue to be interested in joining us. So
Thank you.
our blessings to all of you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Nice to meet you
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Happy New Year.
Have a great night. Happy New Year's.
New Year.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Bye now.